Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. So we're gonna get started now. I'm sure some people will trickle in after, but this will also be fully recorded. So if you miss anything or wanna go back to it, we'll be providing it online after the session ends. So my name is Devki Patel. I'm the industry series producer at the Future of Film Showcase, and I'm really excited to talk to you all today about our Director Development Incubator. So this will be our third year running this program, and at the end of the session, I will open it up to audience Q&A, as well as answer any questions that you may have submitted via the form to sign up for this session. So just a quick reminder that the deadline to submit your project is next Friday on January 27th, and that'll be via Film Freeway. So just to give a quick overview of what this program is, it's a mentorship program designed for emerging and to uplift Canadian filmmakers. And so we provide 6 weeks of mentorship sessions, so one session a week. And then we allow for the finalists to pitch their project at a live pitch competition at our festival. So our festival takes place in the summer, and so the finalists will be preparing to pitch their project live in front of a panel of judges as well as our audience. So the mentorship sessions are designed to provide the filmmakers with hands-on training in essential disciplines that we think are important as a director to really support their project moving forward. And the 6 finalists will be selected after interviewing a short list of applicants from the pool of Film Freeway submissions. So to be eligible for our program, your project must be able to screen at FOFS. So we accept narrative live action shorts, documentary shorts, animated shorts, music videos, and episodic pilot episodes. So if your project is any of the above, you're welcome to submit. We do expect that you've already began the development of your project, so you're in pre-production. So when you submit, we do expect you to provide a full outline or a screenplay of your project. And the runtime that we expect is 15 minutes or less. And then on top of that, those who are submitting must define as emerging under our criteria, which I'll go over now. So to be considered emerging under the FOFS criteria for this program, you just need to meet a minimum of one of the following criteria. So you are either studying in a Canadian institution at the time of production, or you're making your film with support from a Canadian institution. So for example, you are doing your film production degree at a university, or you might be an alum and are utilizing like the Talent to Watch application at your previous institution. Or you could have very little to no distribution of your prior work. So for example, if you've directed like a major feature film or even a short that has gotten exclusive rights from a large distribution company, then you might not really fit into the emerging criteria. But of course, if you have any questions, you're welcome to email us and we'll get back to you. One of the other criteria is that you have not received significant funding from telefilm production funding, for example. Again, this excludes Talent to Watch because that is for like emerging talent. Another one of the criteria is you haven't had a film screen at more than 10 of the following film festivals listed under the telefilm list here. And all of this eligibility criteria is also listed on the Film Freeway page. I'm just going over it to hopefully alleviate any questions that you may already have. And then lastly, one of the criteria is all entries must be in English or contain English subtitles. So if your film is completely in a different language and you are not planning on providing subtitles, then you would not be eligible to submit your project. So again, to be considered emerging, you just have to align with at least one of these criteria here. So there are a lot of perks to being a finalist in this program. First and foremost, you get an all-access pass for a festival, so that means you have access to all of our screenings, industry events, panels, and networking sessions. You also, as I mentioned before, get to attend our mentorship sessions designed for this program. So these sessions are led by leading film professionals in Toronto, and they can be ranging from producers to DOPs to high ups in like large companies. So you get exposure to an array of different individuals and are able to connect with them on a one-on-one basis. You also then, as I mentioned, have the opportunity to pitch your project live in front of a panel of judges and our audience. And I think both are equally as important. Our judges are always wonderful and, again, leading film professionals in Toronto, but the audience is just as important because you never know who might be in the room. We've had prior funders, eager filmmakers who might be interested in working on your project, as well as other professionals that might want to provide mentorship to you. So I think whoever's in the room is really important, and it's a great opportunity to just showcase your project and hopefully get eyes on it before production. And then one of the most exciting parts of being a finalist is that you get a 1-year subscription to ShotDeck, which is a great online resource where you can browse through various film stills and you can filter them by projects, types of shots, even colors. So it's a really great tool for when you're creating visual treatment or storyboarding. And then if you are chosen as the winner of our pitch competition, then you will receive a prize package, which I'll go over now. So you will receive $5,000 in cash for production. So you'll receive half of that on the first day of production and the other half upon showing your completed film. And then on top of that, you'll receive an in-kind prize package from sponsors located around Toronto. In the past, we've given out a camera package, a grip and lighting package, 2 days in a color studio for color grading, days in a studio for sound design, mixing, and editing, as well as 3 in-studio days with provided gear. So our purpose of providing the in-kind prize package is to really alleviate the cost burden that projects have. So by providing these tools in essential departments, we hope to give you enough resources to finish your film. So to just go a bit more in depth of the mentorship sessions, the mentorship sessions are meant to be attended by the director of the project as well as one additional team member. If someone from your team cannot attend, you're always welcome to pass on your attendance to someone else who might be in your crew. Attendance is not mandatory, but highly recommended, as that is like the majority component to our program. So we highly recommend that if you're not able to attend a session, that you find someone else from your project who can. And the importance of these sessions is, again, to learn from industry experts on a variety of topics. And we also gauge, based on who the finalists end up being, what type of topics they're really interested in. If they're really strong in one department and they're looking to receive mentorship on something specific, we always aim to cater our mentorship sessions to what the current finalist pool is looking for. And again, the purpose of these mentorship sessions is also to strengthen your final pitch that'll happen in front of the judges at our festival. And these sessions take place in person around the GTA. There is always the possibility of them being hybrid depending on the format, but usually they do take place just fully in person. And as of right now, these sessions are scheduled to be every Friday in May, as well as the first Friday of June, but this is subject to change based on the availability of both the finalists and the mentors that we have. So how to submit. I'm sure you've all checked out the Film Freeway page that outlines all that I've mentioned, as well as more info on what we expect. One main question that we always receive is how you should submit your project. So we request that you collate, so combine all of the materials into one PDF for submission. If there is an issue with like the size of the file, you're welcome to split it. Or if you have your pitch deck, in a horizontal format and you would prefer to just keep it separate, you can also do that. But if you could just try to condense it into as little amount of files as possible, that would just make it easier for us to review it when we get to that stage. And then when you submit your pitch video, you will just be submitting that file like you would upload a short film for festival submissions on Film Freeway. So you can just honestly just pretend like your submission for this program is like you are submitting a full project to festivals on Film Freeway. So you upload your pitch video where you would upload your short film, and then you upload your PDF files where you would upload like your press kit or something like that. And if you've never done this before, Film Freeway allows you to upload YouTube or Vimeo links. They just need to be unlisted or public, or you can upload the video file directly to Film Freeway. So you can upload this again like a video submission where you would upload a film or under the trailer section, or if it's easier, you can also just upload it under the file section under the attachments portion of the project. And as always, if you have any issues submitting, you can reach out to us via email. I would advise that you test things out a bit prior to the deadline, because the deadline is at midnight and we won't be checking our email, past like work hours that day on Friday. So if you want, you can even upload a practice video or like a test video or something, so that if you have any issues, you have some time before the deadline to figure it out and reach out to us. And we will not be reviewing any submissions until the deadline has passed. So if you learn anything from today's session, or you need to like replace any files up until next Friday, the 27th, you're welcome to do that. So here's some frequently asked questions, and then I will go to the form questions and then open it up to you guys. So can you have a co-director? Yes, you can, but please ensure that you submit the application together. So that means, writing your letter of intent together, submitting your video together. Really make sure that you demonstrate that relationship that you're going to be bringing into the production process. Can the film be anything other than narrative? Yes, like I mentioned previously, any genre and format that we accept as a submission to our festival is welcome. So that includes music videos, documentary shorts, as well as pilot episodes. Do you need to have attached key creatives? No, we don't expect you to have any key crew attached, but if you do, definitely include that info. We really want to see what stage of production you're at, and the more info that you provide, the better it is for us to assess like where you are and what your vision is ultimately. Do you need to be a Canadian citizen? Can I apply if I'm not a Canadian citizen? So yes, you can apply as long as you're working towards your PR, you're on a work permit or a student visa. Any of the above is welcome to apply, as long as you're, residing in Canada currently and working towards some type of long-term visa or staying in the country, you're eligible to apply for this program. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email us and we can assess your individual situation. What do you expect in the budget? So under the Film Freeway section for budget, there is a comprehensive list of what we expect in terms of, showing us your contingency budget as well as your working budget. But if you're just asking in terms of what things to include in the budget, any costs that you're aware of to create your film should be included, including, from pre-production to festival runs in post. So labor, craft, transportation. If you're going to be applying to, X amount of festivals, you can account for that cost as well. So any costs that as of right now that you will be expending, you can include in the budget. And then, is there any support for individuals who are neurodivergent or who have disabilities? So at the Future Film Showcase, we aim to create accessible spaces and sessions for all of our participants and audience members. So accommodations will be assessed based on the individual's needs, depending on who the finalists end up being. So right now I will hop on to our form questions and answer those, and then I'll open it up to all of you on this call. Okay, so one of the first questions we had was clarifying what is considered a Canadian applicant. So I'll just reiterate, if you are a student on a work permit, or you just are residing in Canada working towards permanent residence, you are eligible. As long as you're not, from out of the country, like visiting or something, you are pretty much eligible to apply for a program. And again, if you need more clarification on your particular situation, you're welcome to send us an email. I'm a Canadian citizen, however, I'm not currently enrolled in a university or college. So once again, if you are working in Canada and working towards your PR, you are eligible. For the script, 15 minutes max. Does that mean a 15-page count maximum? How flexible is this? And if it needs to be 15 pages, does the title page count? We don't have a strict page count limit. We just expect that your project would have a runtime of 15 minutes or less. That can be a 5-page script or a 25-page script, depending on your style of writing. So as long as we can clearly see that the runtime would be around 15 minutes, I wouldn't worry too much about the page count. And, we're assessing like the quality of your story and the strength of your writing. And so that we wouldn't want you to compromise your story because you're worried about like hitting an exact page limit. So I would suggest just submitting your project script as is, unless you know it's going to be over 15 minutes, so that your full creative ability is like showcased. And then you can always, if you're selected as a finalist, work with us and our team to get it under that 15-minute limit. And then how tight does our production timeline need to be? As of now, we have it organized by things to get done the first, second, third, and fourth week of each month from now. Is there a way that it's preferred to be formatted? So we do not have a preferred method of showing your production timeline. I would just suggest that the more detailed it is, the more it shows that you've kind of thought ahead and planned your production. But we don't have like a preferred format. Whatever you have is perfectly fine. We don't expect it to be like a day-by-day account. I think having a week-by-week account of each month from now until production is like perfectly adequate and would demonstrate that you've thought ahead and, have really put in the effort of thinking about how you're going to execute your project and finish it up until post. Tell us about any pending funding. You're welcome to include this in your working budget, but please explain how you would create the project if this funding does not come through. Is this the same as the contingency statement? So under the budget section of Film Freeway, I'll just read it out loud in case anyone hasn't done this on their own. So for the budget portion of your application, we ask that you provide a working budget, including any confirmed funding and in-kind support. So if you've already applied to grants and received confirmed funding from like a granting body, or you have already found in-kind support for certain things, please make sure to include that in your working budget so we know that those costs or that amount of money has already been covered. And then tell us about any pending funding. You're welcome to include this in your working budget, but please explain how you would create the project if this funding does not come through. You can either demonstrate this through like a budget, like a spreadsheet budget, or you can just provide a written portion on the side, just telling us about any grant applications that you've submitted and that are still pending, or that you are planning to apply to in like the upcoming funding cycle. And then our recommendation, which will probably answer your question, is if you provide us with 3 budgets, one being your dream budget that includes all of your confirmed and pending funding, as well as the FOFS prize, a second budget that is just with all confirmed funding and in-kind support that you have, and a contingency budget, which is just with the FOFS prize, you already kind of demonstrate the budget and contingency statement portion of the application. But if you don't want to demonstrate like a contingency budget, you just need to write the contingency statement, which is explain how you would complete the project with only our FOFS prize money, which is $5,000, as well as like the in-kind support that we would provide. So basically, yes and no, it is the same thing. It's just an added step. Like you can just provide the contingency statement, or you can provide the contingency statement as well as like a visual budget of like the contingency budget, if that makes sense. If I'm not being clear, feel free to raise your hand when I'm done going through the questions and I can go over it again. And then since I'm applying as a part of a duo, would the reference letters be 1 for each of us or 2 per person? That's a great question. I think personally, if you have like the amount of reference letters for each person, that would be great. But if you also have a reference letter that's encompassing both of you in one, that's also perfectly fine. Actually, Eric, do you mind also chiming in on that question in terms of if someone is applying with like a co-director, do they need to have double the amount of reference letters, or can they just have like the set amount that we've listed? Okay, Eric might not be at his computer right now, but I will circle back to that question when he's back. Personally, I think you just need to meet the required amount that we've listed. I don't think you need to provide double. How important is it to have a full team already? What if you don't have a producer just yet? Like I mentioned before, we don't expect you to have any key creatives locked, but if you do, we definitely recommend that you include that in your application. What are some common application mistakes? I would say the main area of concern that we commonly see is in the budget section, which is why we've kind of expanded off of it this year. We really want to make sure that your project is feasible, whether you receive just our prize money if you are the winner, or if you are, coming in with like an X amount of funding or money guaranteed. Feasibility is often like the one topic that we're commonly discussing, just making sure that the project can be made the way it's being said that it wants to be made, with the resources that the applicant has already confirmed, or if they don't have any money or in-kind coming in, can they make that project with just the FOFS prize money if they end up being the winner? So I would definitely make it clear in your application the feasibility of the project, and I think following like the budget recommendation in our application would really highlight and like demonstrate that you've thought out the 3 possible scenarios of making your production. What part of the application do you weigh most heavily when making final selections? So we, as I mentioned, really value like the budget section and feasibility, but also your story and how authentic it is to you, demonstrating why you think that the story is important and that it's a story that needs to be told. So yeah, I would definitely just focus on everything, but in terms of what we're looking at is definitely story and feasibility. What makes a good video application? Should we show only our faces, or can we include short clips of our film activities? The video application is really up to you. We don't have any like set criteria in mind when we're reviewing them. Again, just showing your true authentic self and demonstrating why the story you're pitching is important to you is really what we're looking for. If that means you're just speaking to us face to face, or if you want to show your previous work that highlights kind of like your style as a filmmaker and like the stories you like to tell, you can also do that. Just stay true to yourself, and whatever you think uplifts you and your project that you're pitching is like the best way of moving forward with your video application. Definitely don't overthink it. We're not expecting like a 4K production. We just want to see like who you are and why your film is something that should be shared with the world. I have a question about the contingency statement portion of the application, where we are asked to propose a way to complete our project with just the FOFS grant of $5,000. I have additional funding confirmed for my project and want to double check if this contingency statement proposal could include that funding, given that it is confirmed, or if it should only be with the $5,000 FOFS grant. That is a great question, and I apologize that that wasn't clear in our Film Freeway. I think if you have funding locked, then you are welcome to include that in your contingency statement. The $5,000 contingency statement that we've listed is more so if, I guess, you don't have any funding allotted. Like if you don't have any funding or in-kind coming in, then we really want to make sure that if you were to win, that you can make your project with just our grant. But if you already have some funding and in-kind coming in, then you're welcome to include that in the contingency statement on top of the FOFS prize. Can you go into more detail about the mentorship? Who are the mentors? Is the guidance tailored to you, or is it more group guidance? So like I mentioned, the mentorship sessions are kind of a mix of what we think are important tools that directors need to, move forward with their film projects, as well as getting feedback from the finalists and seeing what they want to work on and tailoring the sessions according to them. So typically what happens is if we do have like a certain session topic locked, for example, let's say we have visual treatment with like a DOP locked, we would gauge with the finalists what level they are at that skill, and then that way the mentor can cater the mentorship session to their skill level in the room. So if, most of the finalists are kind of new to filmmaking and they haven't done like a lot of work with DOPs on visual treatment, then it might be like a more beginner level session. But if a lot of the finalists have a lot of experience.
Hey everyone, looks like
Sorry about
Debkey Rose. Oh, there she
that. Am I
goes.
back?
I'm back. Yeah, you're back now.
Okay. Did I cut off at any point? I can go over
Yeah,
if I.
yeah.
Okay.
The most recent question you were answering, you cut off.
Okay. I'll sorry about that. I'll
Yeah, it's
repeat
okay.
the answer. So I was just talking about um I'm sorry, one second. My page is loading. The mentorship sessions. So the question was, can you go into more detail about the mentorship sessions? Who are the mentors and is the guidance tailored to you or is it more group guidance? So it is a bit of a mix. So coming into the mentorship sessions, we will have probably like one or two topics planned prior just because we do have to plan things out beforehand. But our intent for each session is to gauge what level of skill each finalist is with that particular topic. So for example, if we have a session on visual treatment with like a DOP planned out, we would, talk to each finalist and see how comfortable they are with that topic, if they have a lot of experience in it, or if they're kind of new to that area of like directing. And then our mentor would then be able to cater the session accordingly, both as a group, but also individually to each finalist. And we also will be asking each finalist if there are any areas of filmmaking that they would really like us to hone in on in one of the mentorship sessions so that we can plan that out for them and give them that experience as well. Does it hurt your application if you don't have a creative team attached yet? Once again, if you don't have any key creatives attached, that is perfectly okay. I wouldn't say it hurts your application necessarily. If you do have key creatives attached, it's great to see, who they are and how they're adding to your visual treatment and adding to your overall idea. But if you don't have anyone attached, that's perfectly okay. Again, we're really focusing on story, your intent for making this project and the feasibility of your film. So I wouldn't worry and I wouldn't rush into attaching key creatives just for the purpose of submitting to our program. How detailed should your budget be? Like I mentioned before, if you know you have a certain cost for something, I would just include it. The more thorough you are and the more you've thought about the feasibility of your project, the more it shows to us like what stage of thinking ahead you're at in terms of your project. So the more detailed, the better, because it then also demonstrates how feasible your project is. What type or level of references are you looking for? We don't have any strict guidelines for who your references are. They can be colleagues, they can be previous employers, really anyone that can demonstrate that you are a strong applicant for this program and that have worked with you in like a filmmaking capacity would be great. But don't stress about, finding someone who's like really high up in the industry. It can easily be someone that you've worked with like on a one-on-one basis, or maybe you directed a previous project and your DOP is willing to write you a reference. It can really be anyone. Just wondering about the kind of in-house grants and if they are offering funding for post. So as I mentioned, our current prize pack is still in the works, but we do aim to provide in-kind support for each key aspect of like the filmmaking process. So, gear, lighting, camera, editing, sound, stuff like that. I can't guarantee right now what exactly the post grants would be, but there will be something, if not more than one element to the prize package that would help you out in post production. Can you speak to the level of in-kind prizes ranging from gear to services that could be expected? Again, right now we don't have the 2026 prize package locked, but in the past we've provided, like one full camera package for production, one full gear and lighting package, 3 days in studio with gear and lighting. So if you need to like build out a set, you can. 2 days in a color grading studio with like a professional level colorist, 2 days in a sound editing studio to like level and do your mixing and stuff. So we aim to provide you with like high quality industry level in-kind prizes that can really like elevate your project and alleviate the burden of cost for those particular things. What if I have no key creatives yet, aside from myself as writer and director? Again, it's okay if you do not have any key creatives locked. We're mainly looking at the quality of your story and the intention of your project. I'm an immigrant filmmaker. Can I provide reference letters from individuals from another country? Yes, you're welcome to provide references from anyone around the world. As long as they're in English, that would make it easier for us to review the application. Is it recommended to have key members of the production team on the project we are submitted? Sorry, I should read these in my head before I read them out loud. Already answered that question. Would there be concerns if the submission only includes the writer-director with the expectation that key crew will be brought into the project at a later date? Again, it's not a deficit if you don't have key creatives locked. If you do, it's always, a great bonus, but we will not be looking at your project any less than someone who has a full crew lock just because you haven't gotten to that stage yet. The story is like the most important thing that we will be looking at. What is the overall success rate of genre films in this program? We've had a quite wide range of genres in the past 2 years of hosting this program. Just last year, we had we had one documentary short that was being pitched, one like hybrid in like live action / like animated short, one that was very like slice of life and slow. So genre films are very welcomed, and we're excited to see the creativity that you have in showcasing your story. What should be included in the pitch deck? Is it just a mood board plus the festival strategy, or should other copy be included? Your pitch deck, as outlined on the Film Freeway page, all that we've asked of the pitch deck is that it includes a festival strategy, so it is quite open to interpretation on what you want to include. Personally, I would suggest, having a pitch deck that you would show a funder, because in this case, like, we are kind of assessing if this project is feasible and like the strength of your story, but you're welcome to include whatever you want in the pitch deck. There's no like format that we're specifically looking for. If you want to just include like a mood board and the festival strategy, you're welcome to do that, or you can include more in-depth details on like if you have crew locked, what your visual treatment is, stuff like that. I would suggest like the more detailed it is, the more inviting it is for us as like the panel to like review your project, but there isn't like a strict list of things that you need to include. Your website says the film must be under 25 minutes and Film Freeway says 15. Which one is it? Yes, apologies, we have corrected that on the website. The guideline for this program is that your project should be 15 minutes or less. Does the short film have to be scripted, or can it be a doc short film? Yes, you're welcome to submit a documentary short. Can an application have 2 directors, such as co-directors? Yes, you're welcome to have a co-director. You just need to submit the application together. So your letter of intent, your video, etc., everything should be done as a duo as you intend to direct the project. Is any portion of the project in person? Is any portion of the program in person, or can it be done virtually? Like I mentioned, most of the sessions and the pitch competition are in person. The sessions might have the possibility of being hybrid depending on the format, but usually they have always been or aim to be fully in person. What is the $55K worth of in-kind support from various partners that will be provided? Like I mentioned prior, the current prize package has not been fully locked. We're still in the works and, working with sponsors on this. But like I mentioned, camera package, grip and lighting package, post-production help with like color grading, sound, mixing, editing, in studio time. These are all things that we've provided in the past that can really alleviate the cost burden of making a short film. And that's all for the questions from the forum. So if anyone has questions in this call, feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and I can answer them right now. Yes, Rebecca.
Hi there. Thanks so much for answering all the questions. This has been great. I'm just wondering, when we're making the contingency budget and assuming we have no other funding confirmed, so it's just going to be the your guys's 5K. I saw you put in terms of like cash flow that half of that money will only come after the film has been delivered. So actually, it's only $2,500 for production and post, is what I guess I want to ask. And the other 2.5 is for like festival and marketing. Is that kind of what you're assuming? I just want to get it right in the budget.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a great way of like demonstrating how you would be using the 5K. Um, I guess another option would be like if you know you're only going to be using the 5K from the program, you might, have to use some of like your own money and then like pay it off with like the remaining 2,500 that we provide at the end. It's really up to you, whichever one you think better fits your budget. Like if you know you need like 4K just in production, I would just recommend demonstrating the full 4K despite knowing that like 2,500 would be coming after, if that makes sense. Does that?
Right, but that does make sense. And so I guess what I'm really trying to ask is you definitely want to see a budget that is like only your guys' money no matter what. Like even if we could have like a crowdfunding campaign or put our own money forward, like you want to see 100% that this could be made at 5K.
So if you have confirmed funding, like as of now, so if you have confirmed funding as of now, you have confirmed in-kind support as of now, or you're going to be putting X amount of your own money into the project, you're welcome to include that in the contingency budget. We basically just want to see like with the confirmed funding that you have on top of like the FOFS funding, if you can make your project, if that makes sense. So
Okay,
you're
yeah,
welcome to make
that
it
makes
like
sense.
larger than 5,000 if you have that
Okay.
money already like allotted.
Okay, amazing. So yeah, it doesn't have to, I was worried that the contingency was like you have to only use the
No,
your
sorry. And
guys'
maybe I'll
money.
go in there. Yeah, I'll go in there and maybe reword it a little bit because that's a great question. Obviously, if you have money confirmed, there's no point in like demonstrating that it has to just be 5,000. So I'll like go in there and update that. Thanks for asking your
Okay,
question.
thank you so much.
No problem. Flex?
Uh, yes, hi. Thanks for all the answering of questions so far. So my first question is regarding the team of key creatives. Um, do every single one of them have to meet that requirement in terms of an emerging filmmaker?
No. So the only person that needs to meet that criteria is the director who's applying for the project. So you can have like, you know, really professional individuals confirm as key
Okay.
creatives. Yeah.
And if it's an application with co-directors, then it would be both in terms of meeting that
Yeah, in
requirement
terms
for.
of, yeah, if you have a co-director, we do expect that they're both emerging. But if think if you have more questions about that, you're welcome to like send us your individual situation. We can assess it ourselves and let you know if you think like one person might not fit into that criteria.
Okay, got it. My next question is just overall trying to understand the objective of this sort of program. So, is it that, come the deadline, we submit our applications. All those applications, certain people are chosen to then go into the mentorship. They do that over several weeks, and then someone is selected to then receive this prize package to make their short film. Is that like how this whole thing works? Okay.
Yeah.
So is it the case where, how do I say? someone can have their short film already in production prior to even being selected? Is that like possible?
Typically we expect that like the projects won't be going into production before the pitch. But I don't know. Eric, what are your thoughts on this? Like if someone is planning on going into production before the pitch competition, would they like be able to pitch for like post funding or something or
Um, that is a good question. I would recommend not doing that because part of what like we have jurors that come in to judge everybody's pitch, right? And part of the criteria for how they're judging the pitches is how ready the project is to go into production. So if you're ready to go into production and you're willing to push it to, I don't know, let's just assume, the festivals you're pitching in June and you want to go to production in July. That's actually a huge advantage for you to keep in your back pocket, right? So like, we had someone that went into production. They didn't end up winning the pitch, but they ended up going into production, I believe in September of 2025, right? So part of their pitch was, I'm ready to go for production. I have everything, in terms of my funding lock. They had an additional Toronto Arts Council grant that they used, and they were like, I'm good to go to production in September, right? So that was a huge sort of momentum for their pitch because the jurors knew that if they selected this person, then it was ready to go fairly quickly, if that makes sense. So I don't suggest going into production before the pitch because um, this program is meant to support people going into production, not just for post. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Okay, so
And again, like
production.
using that to your advantage, right? Like you're ready to go into production whenever it is. Don't do it before the pitch. Use that in your like get selected for the program, let's say, and then use that in your materials.
Okay, got it. All right, and just one more question. So one of the things that was listed in terms of like eligibility is like not having received significant funding. So, like, how does that work in terms of like having a desirable application? Because like, you've talked about having funding locked, but I see that like also having significant funding also hurts your application in terms of eligibility. So I just want to understand how that works.
yeah. I when we say significant funding, we mean more like you've received like a telefilm production grant for like a feature, if that makes sense. Like you've received like a really like large grant from like a large granting body. If you've received like an Ontario's Creates grant for like this project, that's not something that we would like consider as disqualifying you from this program, if that makes sense. Also, just to go back to one of your questions about like the intent of our program. So from like the applicant pool in Film Freeway, we then create a short list of applicants that we consider, really strong in terms of their story and feasibility of their project. And then we'll do a round of interviews. And then from that round of interviews, we pick 6 finalists. And the reason we host these mentorship sessions, we could easily just give like one applicant, the prize money just without having a pitch competition or anything. But we really want to foster, 6 individuals' filmmaking career and really help them with their project. So even if, 5 people they don't end up being the winner from the competition, they still are able to take away a lot of key insights from our mentorship sessions and also the practice of pitching live in front of an audience and panel of judges. Nick.
Hey, Devki. I just have 2 quick questions. The first is for the reference letter. Do you have any preference as to who they should address? Should it be the FOFS committee body?
It can be to whom it may concern or
Okay.
FOFS, like it doesn't matter, yeah.
Okay. And then my other question is for the interviews, approximately when would they be held? And would you want just the applicants or do you want any key creatives from the team attending?
The interviews will just be with whoever's applied and sorry, I thought that was listed on the Film Freeway. The interviews will be taking place probably like a few weeks after the deadline has passed, just so it gives us time to go through all of the applications. I will check back with, I know we've set a week for the interviews. I'll check back and update it on Film Freeway, but I wouldn't expect to like receive like an interview invite until at least like mid-February. Okay, yeah.
Thank
We've
you.
estimated them to be like the first week of March. Shirag just messaged me. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Daisy? Ingrid?
Hi there. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was just wondering for what is the difference between the regular and the late deadline? Because I think, for example, I just found out about this program and I really like it, but I'm not sure if I have everything I need to apply for it right now. So I was wondering what's the difference between the regular and the late deadline?
There is no late deadline listed on Film Freeway. It's just the regular deadline on the 27th. We do have two options for applying. You can either just apply like with your project, or you can apply with the request for feedback. So I think the cost difference is like $20. If you apply for with feedback, then we will then like have like a one-on-one conversation with you after the application cycle to like discuss why you might not have been selected, or just in general what you can improve on in your project to help you with your film.
I see. Okay. Because I just see that there's a regular deadline for the 31st, and then there's a late deadline for February 28th on the Film Freeway site, but I'm not sure what that is.
Sorry, you must be looking at our like festival submissions. Like, I just put the link in the chat for this program. You're probably looking at our submissions for our festival. So if you've already completed a short film, you're welcome to submit to our like short films program at our annual festival. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Then again, if you are looking for, we do have some people reach out to us and ask for a like a deadline extension. We aren't always able to do it depending on how many people do ask us. But if you are considering submitting and you do need a bit of an extension, then we can feel free to email us and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
But try to do that like as soon as possible. Like don't email us on the 27th. Like if this is something you're seriously considering, then we'll try to honor an extension for you.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I also am just gonna circle back to a question that was asked earlier, Eric. Someone was asking if they have a co-director, if the reference letters, like if they need to have double the amount of reference letters, or if it can still be like the set amount.
That's a good question. I would say try to have, like, if you have co-directors, then maybe get 2 reference letters per person, I would say. So make it like 4 total. I know that's not listed on the Film Freeway or anything, but like the thing with 3 is more so for 1 person. But if you're 2 people, then try to do 2 and 2. And make sure they're addressing 1 person in that letter. Or by all means, like if you have co-directed with each other in the past, and let's say, for example, I don't know, you made something together and a festival programmer has seen it, or someone is familiar with your work as a team, then by all means, you could have 1 letter that addresses the 2 of you if you have someone that's knowledgeable of your work as a team. But other than that, if you're doing individuals, like this is like, let's say your first time directing together, then try to do 2 and 2.
Thank you. Daisy?
Hi. Thank you so much for answering all the questions. I have 2 questions. My first one is the script I'm thinking of submitting. It has some VFX elements in it. So to make it cheaper, I can strip the VFX elements from it, but I wanted to submit it in its full form. is it fine for me to submit it in its full form and then explain that in the contingency, or would that automatically disqualify it if like you read the script and you can tell it's not feasible?
No, I think definitely like submit your script showing your full creative intention. We would never like just read a script and like scrap it. We like make sure to review, the whole application. So you're welcome to include like a note somewhere, like maybe in the budget section or contingency statement section saying like, if I'm not able to fund the VFX component to this project, I have like this backup plan on how I can demonstrate that element of the project. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, that does make sense. Thank you. And my next question was, I'm not the director in the project, I'm the writer. So I was planning to submit the application, but does the application have to come specifically from the director? I can apply it as the writer.
Eric, do we have strict rules on who submits? I know usually it is the director, but like in this case, if it's just the writer.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So I already have a director attached to the project, but I was planning to submit the application myself. They'll work with me to submit it, but I was planning to attach it to submit it under my name. Would it be better for it to be submitted under their name, or does it not make a difference? Does it have to be the director who submits an application?
Yeah, it needs to be the director that submits the application because the director is the person that we're evaluating.
Okay.
Yeah, like the director is the person that's going to go up and like if they're selected for the program, they're going to be participating in the mentorship sessions, and then eventually, they're going to be the ones pitching the project.
Okay. Okay. So they would have to pitch by themselves. Like I
That's
wouldn't
correct.
be pitching with them. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, it would be they would be pitching themselves. Yeah. Unless,
Okay.
what, we did have a situation where um I believe, I don't know if you remember this, Devki, but a couple of years ago we had someone that decided to um we decided to have someone they decided to have someone like the writer pitch instead of them because they had the lived experience of the project. That was a really like sensitive topic and specific circumstance, but ideally it's the director that's pitching.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you so
Okay?
much.
No problem.
If you think it would be advantageous to like demonstrate like your story and like you as the writer, like your perspective, you're also welcome to, you could submit it together, like just for the purpose of this application. Like make sure like the director is, submitting the project, but you could be a part of like the video introduction or like help with the materials or letter of intent.
Okay. Okay. Great. We were planning to work on it together, so it's
Yeah, I think,
okay. Okay.
it's like not a black and white thing. Like if the writer is very involved with, the planning and pre-production, then in a way you almost are like kind of consulting as a co-director. So you're welcome to, work together and submit together as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
No problem. Jordan?
Hi there. My question is, if I have two producers attached, is it okay if they're also my reference letters if I've worked with them quite a lot, or would you recommend outside reference letters?
That's a good question. Personally, I would think maybe to have at least one reference letter that's not like a part of your internal team, just because then, any questions of like bias from our panels is kind of alleviated, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't think all of them need to be, not a part of your current team. But I would, it's not required, but I would personally just recommend that you have like someone external to your project writing a reference letter.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
No problem. Stephen?
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for all the answer questions. I'm just wondering, I have two questions. My first one is about um, the theme of the story, because I know that specifically grants in Canada, they tend to gravitate more towards a specific like social issue or something that's very relevant, or, like social relevance or political relevance or something like that. Is that a factor in how the jurors would decide which project to go with? Yeah, I was wondering if you can answer that.
Yeah, for sure. So we don't have any strict criteria or like thought process in terms of what social issues or what the theme of the film projects that are submitted have. Um, I would say the more personal that the script is to the director, those do tend to get a bit more eyes on them just because it shows like a really in-depth connection between like the filmmaker and the project that's being pitched. But we don't have any, like we don't have like a rubric and like a part of the rubric that says like, does this target like a societal issue or something? I would just make sure that regardless of what your script is targeting, that you find a way to really demonstrate how you as the filmmaker connect to the project and why you think that that story is important to tell, especially right now.
I see. A follow-up question would be then, if I do have a script right now, which is a sci-fi project that you know, I'm really keen on making, because my initial motivation was because it's something, it's a new experience, so it would be fun to make. Would that be then a less strong reason to to would that make it less strong as an option to be shortlisted then? Yeah, just that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have a two-part answer. So the first thing I would consider is when you are pitching a project to like a funder to get greenlit, you also have to keep your audience in mind. So even though like you might be wanting to make a sci-fi because, as a director, it's going to push your creative thinking and it's like a new experience and etc. You also want to frame it in a way that to us demonstrates like who the audience is for that project. So let's say you're making the sci-fi and like the intention of it is really just for you to like push yourself as a director. As like a juror, that doesn't really provide a strong enough reason to like fund a project because ultimately like when the film is done, it needs to be watched by like an audience. So I would make sure that you frame the rationale behind your project as, it's for this particular audience or like, right now there are so many issues going on in the world and this project is really just to be something like fun and to take people out of reality. Like just really framing it in a way that is sellable, if that makes sense. I think if you could base it on yourself as like being something that would be beneficial for you, it kind of lessens like the possibilities and like advantages of producing your project, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I
Because like
guess
a
that
film
kind of
isn't just for the filmmaker, it's also for like the audience to watch it. So I think making sure to include the audience and like the reason why you want to make the film. And if you're able to tie it to something in society, like that's a bonus, but again, that's not a requirement.
okay. You would say then the whole point of intention and connection to the story is for the audience to also experience, like the audience
Yeah.
experience. That's the whole point then.
Yeah, like the intention of you as a director is important, but also like who is the film for? Because ultimately, like a film is made to be watched by other people.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Mira?
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you again for answering all these questions. I had a quick couple of ones. The first one is about the contingency budget. Um, so I remember it being said prior that it's like the $5,000 that we get from FOFS. But should we be including like, for example, because I know we're probably guaranteed some sort of in kind when it comes to like a camera or like a G&E package. Should we be assuming that as like in kind in our budget, or should we be taking that from the 5,000?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the past, we've usually had the prize package listed during the application cycle, but this year, unfortunately, things have been a little backlogged. So you are welcome to assume like that we're providing a camera package and a grip and lighting package. Um, just because in the past that is usually what we've provided, and it would not realistically be feasible to make like your project probably in the $5,000 without that in-kind support. So yeah, you are welcome to utilize like what I've said in today's session, like in terms of what we usually provide in that contingency budget.
Okay, awesome. And then my next question is about the reference letters for the co-directors. So I'm under the understanding that we should have 2 reference letters each. Is it an issue if one of these letters out of the 2 is written by the same person?
No. And if they've seen you work together before, you could also ask them to just write one letter with you as like a duo, if that makes sense. If you've like worked together as a co-director pair
Okay.
before.
And then last thing, I'm just curious, is there like, I guess, a preferred reference, like when it comes to like, for example, like if we are coming from like university, like is there a preference to being our professor versus like one of our colleagues who would technically be a student?
No, there's no preference at all. The reference letters for us is really just to make sure that, you know, how you're presenting yourself is true and that you are like a reliable individual that could be trusted with, you know, bringing your project into this incubator and pitching in front of guests. So I wouldn't worry too much about who the reference is as long as they can speak like positively towards you as a person and as a filmmaker.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. Easy.
Hello. I guess I just had a I guess I had a
Hi.
question regarding more about the timeline because I saw on the website it said March 2027, and I'm just thinking about how the finishing like post editing for the film would work, and if it's like you're expected for the film to be finished like online editing like before March, or like are we allowed like March 31st sort of thing.
Yeah. So the reason we say March is because that's roughly around the time that our programming team is finishing up like their selections for our festival. So then they're able to assess like where your film would fit into our programming schedule. Um, Obviously, like things change and move around. So I would just suggest like in your timeline to kind of fit it to like that March deadline, but just know like if you were chosen as the finalist or sorry, as the winner, we would be working with you like throughout the year and checking in on you, and we would know like the stage of the project, and like if you needed an extra month, like we would obviously have seen it cut by that point to like know what the film is going to look like. So I wouldn't worry too much about like completing it strictly by that date. It's just for a general idea of like when our programming team would be like considering where to put your project, if that makes sense. Okay. Flex?
Hi again. Question. So if the short film is a proof of concept for something larger, should we mention that in the application, and at what detail?
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of info to include in your application because it also gives us like an idea of like in terms of the longevity of your career, like what are we supporting, and like if we're able to help you with like your feature down the road, like that's a plus for us as well. Like we would be happy to do that. So I think if you can add that in, that's great.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question to that. So I know you had mentioned the formats in terms of it being an episode. So if the short film is a proof of concept for a series as opposed to a feature, is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, thanks.
iPhone?
Hi. So I'm based in Ottawa, and I was just wondering if it is possible to do the mentorship um online, and then obviously for the pitch I would come down to Toronto.
So, like I mentioned, most of our mentorship sessions are in person. There's like a small chance that like maybe one or two could be hybrid depending on the format. So we would recommend if you're based in the GTA, that would be the best option. However, if you have like confirmed like key creative like team members that could come in your place, like if they're based in the GTA, then that's definitely like an option. But we would like expect someone from the team to be able to attend in person for the sessions.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Does anyone else have any questions?
Can I ask one last thing, Devki?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just around the actual mentors, you said that there'll be like different topics with new mentors each time for the sessions, but I'm wondering if there's going to be like a bigger mentor that's assigned to each director or to all the directors, or is it just these like changing mentor sessions?
That's a great question. So we do not have like a singular mentor assigned to each finalist. It's just like the weekly sessions where you meet with like the rotating like industry professionals. However, our team at FOFS is like always willing to help out and mentor you as well on the side of like the mentorship sessions. Like my colleagues are also filmmakers in the industry and they have connections as well. So you're welcome to utilize their opinion and mentorship as well throughout the program.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And
Yeah, no
one other thing, if possible, since we're here at the end, I'm wondering. I know you said you didn't have a preference for the format of the budget, but I'm just wondering if it would be like a red flag if, say, we are going to apply for Arts Council, but we weren't using an Arts Council like budget template, for example, when we submit to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, no, there's no red flags in terms of your budget format. If anything, actually, we've had really different looking budgets in the past. A lot of times if people are submitting to like Ontario Creates or something like a larger granting body, they tend to just submit that budget to us, and that's perfectly fine because then it's like well formatted. So if that's easier for you to just like create one budget that you're going to use for both, you're welcome to do that as well. But you don't need
Okay,
to.
yeah. Okay, great. I'll probably separate it since the Arts Council ones are kind of hard to read. Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Do you still have a question? Sorry, iPhone, I don't know your name. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, so this is our email for the program that is monitored by another team member at FOFS. If you sent us an email prior to this session, we are planning on replying to you in the next day or two, so thank you for your patience. Otherwise, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your interest in the program and are very excited to review your application. So best of luck.